Yeah, this one I picked Washington State to upset Arizona State, but that isn't what happened. I mean, Arizona State rallied late. Jaden Daniels, the freshman, he scored on a 17-yard scramble with 34 seconds left and threw 3 touchdown passes to Brandon Ayuk, and they come back to win 38-34. Like I said, I guess what Mike Leach was talking about his team being, lazy and entitled. That's, because they started off like just gangbusters, because we were talking about Gordon, he was going to, he may force his way into Heisman Trophy discussion, but he didn't have a bad game.
No, he threw the ball 64 times, completing 44 of them, 466.
Yeah, and earlier he had that 9-touchdown game. But this one started off, Travell Harris kicked a 35-yard field goal. Actually, it was a 35-yard TD pass from Anthony Gordon to put Washington State up 7-0. Then they come back with Blake Mazza's 33-yard field goal to go up 10-0. Then Arizona State finally gets on the board in the second quarter with Brandon Ayuk, 40-yard pass from Jaden Daniels to go bring it within 10-7. And then Desmond Patman for Washington State had the 2-yard TD pass from Anthony Gordon to make it 17-7. And then with 1:55 left in the second quarter, Brandon Ayuk again, 86-yard pass from Jaden Daniels, brought it within 17-14. And with no seconds left, Christian Zendejas, another Zendejas, 31-yard field goal, tied up 17 at half. Then the third quarter, Arizona State come out with Eno Benjamin, 32-yard TD run, and put Arizona State up 24-17. And then Aesop Winston Jr., 2-yard pass from Anthony Gordon to make it 24-24. And then Max Borghi, 2-yard TD run to put Washington State up 31-24. And then the fourth quarter, Arizona State come back with another Brandon Ayuk 33-yard touchdown pass from Jaden Daniels to bring it 31-31. And then Blake Mazza kicked a 31-yard field goal with 2 minutes 30 seconds left to put Washington State up 34-31. And then with just 34 seconds left, Jaden Daniels, 17-yard run to put them up 38-34. So Arizona State, boy, they're battling, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm shocked on how well they're doing.
Me too, man.
I mean, they did play in front of
Michigan State.
Yep.
That was a big win on the road, albeit a controversial one because of that guy jumping over the center and not getting called on that field goal.
About almost 49,000 people attended that game.
Yeah, Arizona State.
We look at the QBR for the quarterbacks. Gordon's QBR was 145.4. Daniels was 184.
Yeah, he's a freshman.
Yeah, so, much in the rushing for Washington, the 10 carries for
32
yards. And then you look at the Arizona State, the 32 carries for 169.
Yep.
And 2 touchdowns, so.
Penalties right there. Washington State, 7 penalties, 58 yards. First downs, Washington State 29-25. Third down efficiency, Washington State was 5 of 13, so less than 50%. Arizona State was 4 of 11. Both were 2 of 2 on fourth downs. Total yards, 498 for Washington State, 532 for Arizona State. Passing yards, 466 for Washington State, 363 for Arizona State. Yards per pass, boy, Arizona State was throwing it down the field 10.1 yards. And Washington was 7.1. It's more like a Mike Leach offense.
Mm-hmm.
Rushing yards, Washington State 3.2 yards per carry versus 5.3 for Arizona State. So this one was upset for me because I even though Arizona State was ranked, I just thought Mike Leach would get his team rebounded.
Mm-hmm.
And especially with the quarterback Gordon, I thought, this is a kid that threw those 9 touchdowns earlier. I thought he would.
Yeah, but you got to figure those 9 touchdowns were against UCLA.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
It wasn't like they were going against.
They lost.
And, it wasn't going against, like, Alabama or.
Yeah.
Or
or Michigan State or something.
Yeah, it was UCLA. So,
but it was I guess Arizona State's for real, man. I mean, if you're at the Pac-12,
they're up there now.
They are. I mean,
kind of been quiet for many, many years, and now they're kind of making a new.
Only team ahead of them in the rankings right now is what, Utah?
Mm-hmm. So,
what's the next game you want to talk about? You want to talk about Oregon versus Colorado? Since
we're
talking Pac-12?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Yeah, reason I want to talk about this, I know you're a big fan of Colorado, and they traveled to Eugene to play Oregon, who's 5-1 now. And still 13th, sitting outside of the top 10. It's crazy.
Yeah, the Buffaloes were not there at that game. I mean, they lost 3 to 45. I mean, quarterback threw 4 interceptions, a QBR of 64.7. I mean, and then you look over at Oregon and dominant.
Yeah, Justin Herbert, 18 to 32, 261 yards, and 2 TDs.
QBR of 145.4.
Mm-hmm.
It just seemed like that game in the first quarter it seemed very close, 3-7, and then all of a sudden Oregon woke up and that was about it that's all the points Colorado got was that 3 points in the first quarter.
So what is this, 4 games in a row that Oregon's not giving up a touchdown?
Mm-hmm.
And Oregon's, I don't care who you're playing against in this day and age with these offenses designed to score in bunches, holding anybody to under a touchdown is pretty impressive.
And once again, it's a Pac-12, and no one's talking about them because they play a late night game. Well, actually, this one was actually a Friday night.
Yeah,
but just the way that they do the polling,
I know. You look at all these teams from the SEC that's ranked ahead of them with losses, and you're like, okay, but you know what that's all about? TV ratings, and because more people in the southeastern part of the United States are watching these games than people on the West Coast, so they've got to appease them. But this one, Jacob Breland had a 7-yard pass from Herbert, and got up 7-0, and that was all they really need. But then James Stefano had a 27-yard field goal for Colorado, and that was it for them. Then a second quarter, Camden Lewis 32-yard field goal for Oregon. Then Cyrus Habibi Likio, he had a 1-yard run. Then Jaden Red had a 3-yard touchdown run, and then Jaden Red a 13-yard pass from Herbert to put them up 31-3 in the third quarter. And then Cyrus Habibi Likio 3-yard run again to put them up 38-3. And then Cyrus Habibi Likio 1-yard run. So the competitive phase of this thing was over pretty much at halftime. But Colorado, they need to be back in the Big 12, I think. They're just whatever deal they got.
It's not working.
No. First downs were pretty close. Oregon 25, Colorado 22. First downs. Colorado was 50% on their third down conversions. Total yards, though, was a huge mismatch, Michael. Total yards 299 for Colorado and 527 for Oregon. 131 yards passing was pretty bad for Colorado. This right here is just abysmal. You see the penalties in this game? 14 penalties for 114 yards for Colorado, and Oregon had 10 penalties for 119. Colorado had 4 turnovers. Just sloppy, undisciplined. And that goes back on the head coach for, if you're turning the ball over and you're having that many penalties, you're not doing a very good job of coaching. You're just not. These guys that's basic fundamental stuff, and they're just, I don't know, I guess they got him tuned out or what, but I'd be scared for my job if I was them.
Yeah, they dominated. Oregon's a very dominant team this year.
They are right now. They just seem to get better every week. You can't score on them.
Yeah.
Touchdowns. Pretty impressive, man. Impressive indeed.
So what other game stands out to you?
Well, let's start talking about the big powerhouse teams playing each other. Let's talk about Penn State, who was 5-0, playing the 4-1 Iowa Hawkeyes. That was a pretty low scoring game. Ended up being 17-12. But let's talk about that one. Yeah, this is one I was flipping back and forth between the LSU Florida game and this one. I was flipping back watching both of them, but Penn State holds off Iowa 17-12. Noah Cain ran for a 5-yard touchdown with 5 minutes left, and they held off the 17th ranked Hawkeyes. I believe this is the first win for Penn State over a ranked team this year.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard there were some issues, I guess, with the refereeing. I saw on Twitter world, I guess some people are doing petitions to fire the referee.
That was started by some kid, right?
Yeah, some kid. He started off at 500 signatures, and right now he's up to like 9,000 or 10,000 signatures. So
blaming the refs, huh?
Yeah, so he's asking for the whole referee team to be fired. So
wow,
I don't know what all happened. I mean, Penn State. This was not the Penn State that we've seen all year long. Not like a blowout,
No, but because Iowa's a good team, man. They're physical. Iowa's always got physical players on defense. They usually always have those defensive linemen and offensive linemen that are good. So, but they come out, drew first blood with a field goal in the first quarter. Then second quarter, KJ Hamler had a 22-yard pass from Sean Clifford for Penn State to take a 7-3 lead, and then with 20 seconds left in the second quarter, Keith Duncan kicked a 24-yard field goal to bring Iowa within 1 point. In the third quarter, 2 minutes left, Penn State kicked a 33-yard field goal to put them up 10-6. And then with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, Noah Cain had the 5-yard run to put them up 17-6. And then 2 minutes left, Brandon Smith had a 33-yard pass from Nate Stanley to bring it within 17-12. But this one was two big physical teams, out there playing Big Ten football.
Mm-hmm.
Low scoring, penalties. And it is so funny, they want to get the refs fired, right? You know how many penalties Iowa had?
How many?
1. 5 yards. Penn State had 8 penalties for 80 yards. Iowa, of course, did have the 2 turnovers, but the first downs were pretty much even, 21-20, Iowa's favor. Iowa they were 2 for 2 on fourth down. They were 8 of 18 on third. Penn State was 10 of 19 on third down. Total yards for Penn State, 294 yards. I mean, Iowa's got a defense now. And then Iowa had 356 yards. Penn State only had 117 yards passing, whereas Iowa had 286 yards rushing. Iowa just couldn't run on them. I mean, 70 yards for Iowa's rushing attack and 177 for Penn State. But the penalties, 8 for 80 for Penn State, that should have doomed them, but it didn't. And, this one is, elevated Penn State up to the number 10 team in the country. Well, that's where they were. They were 10. They are 7 now, so they're in the top 10. And, Iowa dropped considerably down to 23 with a 4-2. But, yeah, like I said, when I watched this one was this hard-hitting defensive struggle. And it's the kind of games I usually like to watch. So, did you get a chance to tune into this one much?
I tuned in a little bit. I was mostly watching the Florida LSU game and some other sports. So what other game you want to talk about?
Well, let's talk about the past glories game. Let's talk about Notre Dame USC. This was the 91st meeting between these two teams.